Welcome to the Love the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Bell, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas. Joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas, where he co-hosts that with Eric Chiafalo, Zach Wolchuk, and of course the General Gavin Dawson. They all do a great job over there. He is also the pre and post game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And Brian, we got a big matchup here.
Yeah.
We got the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills this weekend. And not only that, this is a return to Buffalo for the first time since you last went on a road trip with the Dallas Cowboys when you had to fly through a tornado.
Why do you want to bring that one up? We flew through a tornado to get home after that game. That was a game, and I've never been on a trip like this. It was really weird. And weird in a way, I just don't ever remember a player's wife flying with us on the trip.
I don't think I've ever seen that on the plane.
Kellen Moore's wife. Kellen Moore made the start that day in Buffalo. And his wife flew with us on the plane to Buffalo. I don't ever remember a wife coming on a trip. I mean, they've had wives' trips, I believe, but I wonder. It was kind of different. It was different, but he was making his first start. So I was going to say,
I wonder if it's like because Buffalo's a harder place to get to. They're probably like, she needs a flight. She can catch a ride with us.
She wants to see her husband with his first start and all that. And the team was nice enough to bring her along, and she was part of that. So,
And then you all almost got taken down by a tornado.
It was Bobby on the way home, and it's so weird for somebody that's seen the world the way I have through airplanes and airports and stuff like that. I hate to fly. I absolutely am terrified of flying. Yep. And I get big puddles of water in my hand when I fly. I get that nervous. And we flew home after the Buffalo game, and it was so weird because we hit storms the whole way. I mean, the whole way. And that big old plane was just bouncing all over the place, and Mickey Spagnola was sitting in front of me, and he was just commenting, and guys were standing up, and you lose the game, and every time some violent storms were flying through. And we had to fly. We couldn't even land in Dallas. So we had to go land in Houston. And I swear to you, I told Rob Phillips, I said, if they open that door, I'm jumping off. I mean, I'm seriously getting off this plane. And, they refueled us in Houston, and we had to fly back through all that stuff. It was a short flight, but it was just the same, just crazy, but I'm just, it's weird. I hate flying. I do and I don't take medicine or drink or anything like that. I just, try and fight through it. And if you're one of those guys or gals that get scared of flying, I'm in the same boat with you, but that was a tough trip. Man, it was a bad day in Buffalo, man. That was
I was going to say, which was worse, do you think, the flight home or the offense that day?
Offense was pretty bad. Yeah, offense was pretty bad.
Was it 16-6? I think was that final. It was
game. A lot of things happened that day, and like I said, we the night before we thought we were going to be really cool. DallasCowboys.com. We were going to go to the Anchor Bar and have wings and live it up and be check out Buffalo and all that. We must have gone through 7 or 8 different places that couldn't even get us in. I mean, we didn't. After that point in time, I told those guys to say, if you're going to do this ever again, you got to make reservations in the summertime. And Hellman looks at me and goes, by the way, happy birthday, David Hellman, today as we do this show. But so we're sitting there, and I tell these guys, I'm like, hey, from now on, make reservations. If you want to go to the steak place, make reservations. Don't just show up and think that you're going to get in. And from that point on, that was my legacy that I left. DallasCowboys.com, that how to plan for these trips is what I did.
They learned their lesson. They
sure did. But yeah, it was a bad day in Buffalo. Boy, that was a bad day. And we were at the time playing like a bad team. That was just wasn't good at all. Wasn't good.
Well, Brian, this is a better football team that's taking on the Buffalo Bills right now, and it's a better Buffalo team than it was back then as well.
It is.
These two teams are both pretty good, and Buffalo, the 7-6 record does not seem to match the team you see on tape in a lot of ways, I don't think. And today we're going to take a look at the offense, preview Buffalo's offense, talk a little bit about how Dallas's defense matches up against them, and then we'll take a look at the Buffalo defense tomorrow. But Brian, first kind of macro takeaway on the Bills offense is what for you? What is the big overriding takeaway about what Buffalo does on offense?
I really like what Joe Brady has done on with the running game with Buffalo. And I mean, getting the running game going, but also to the point of using the running backs the way that he has. I think they get a super talented group of running backs. I have the utmost respect for James Cook. And,
he is a good player.
He is really good player.
We're going to get into this some more here in a second. That is the guy that scares me the most. Outside of just Josh Allen, that's the guy that scares me the most.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. If you follow all our work on the draft show through the years, I was a big Josh Allen fan. And I thought Josh Allen went to the perfect team when you start to talk about the way that he played at Wyoming. And you talk about the rugged, tough style that he plays in all conditions and the toughness that he plays with. I thought Buffalo was a perfect place for him to go. And, he's had some absolute brilliant moments playing for the Bills. He's got the turnovers are a problem. That is a legitimate problem. And it's something that still haunts him as we get ready for this game. I think that Dallas has the ability to get turnovers in this game. As much as the way that they play the ball in the air, the way they create, turnovers, create fumbles. This game could very well hinge on Dallas's defense, creating a couple of those turnovers and getting them. But to go back with James Cook, I just like what Joe Brady's doing with him. How they throw him the football. They're taking advantage of his pass catching abilities and
hit those wheel routes.
Hit the wheel routes, and they stretch the defense one way and then run him through the defense. Run a route behind that, and they're just doing a lot more. It's just kind of like watching the Cowboys in the way that Cowboys create offense through their scheme, where they the route combinations and. Hey, if you're going to play your safety here, we're going to run somebody through and take your eyes away and then run a guy behind that into that area, and you're going to lose that guy. And that's really what, that's what the Bills are doing right now with Brady. There's some really creative stuff, but Cook is he's a big-time player. And I think also with Ty Johnson also too, and Latavius Murray. I mean, they've got backs. I remember with Ty Johnson, I remember him coming out of Maryland. Like a big-time kickoff returner, and I mean, legitimate like 4.32 speed. And so they're finding ways to get him the ball on the edge and things like that. So, but man, I tell you what, they've got some skilled guys, and they've got an offensive line that, at times will give up pressure. But for the most part, they got a quarterback that will get rid of the football. He just won't take sacks. So it's an interesting offense. Yeah,
he gets sacked at a very low rate. It's about 3%, and that doesn't mean that he's not in the grasp a couple times. He will not go down.
No,
this is the last quarterback in the NFL who will slide. This guy is not going to slide. He looks for contact, not just looks for it. Like he'll lower his shoulder. He gets tackled in all sorts of violent ways.
Yeah,
really, really, to me, as good as Patrick Mahomes is, and he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I think Josh Allen might be the king of the how the hell did that turn into a positive play quarterback, where it's like that has no business being a positive play, where it's like it looks like he's throwing it away and he's in somebody's grasp, and it's like, nope, that's a 40-yard dot to Gabe Davis or somebody. He will just take a play and completely reverse the outcome of it. But that same fight and that same sort of trust in his abilities is also where a lot of times he'll put the ball in jeopardy. That's where the Kansas City interception happened. Trying to make something happen, tossing it, not seeing the defender come to the other side there.
That's the problem.
Ball gets picked off.
Yeah, that's the problem. He'll make his share of tight window throws, but he's not always accurate. So then what happens is, and I went back and watched all his interceptions, just kind of sorted them in my file and watched them all. And there are turnovers where he throws that YOLO ball. You only live once ball. And
you only live once. That's the motto.
Yeah, he'll do that. He'll throw to receivers that aren't open. He'll throw interceptions because of late reads. He'll also not see defenders. That's a big problem for him. He's had a share of tip balls, and he's had a couple that at the I know one that was the end of the half. But I mean, he's one of these guys. He fights to extract everything he can get out of the play. That's how he plays this game. So he's a hard guy to defend that way because all of a sudden he's in the pocket and he's running forward and he just shovels the ball. I mean, he just shovels it forward, or he throws it at somebody and and thinking, I'm not going to give up on this play. I'm not going to take a sack. And those are hard guys to defend when they play. He has got some Brett Favre in him that way.
That was the comparison Mike McCarthy gave. Mike McCarthy said he reminds him of Brett Favre.
That's exactly what he is. He is. It's the oh no, oh yes, that kind of guy. I lived with Brett Favre all those years I was in Green Bay, where you were literally going no, oh God, yes, he pulled it off. That's the way that Josh Allen plays. And so, I mean, every play to him is trying to get the home run. Every play is that way, and I think there were times in these games where he was moving around the pocket when he didn't have to. It's just, that's the way he plays. And, like Dak, he really enjoys the physical side of the game, Yeah. I mean, he has a history. This guy has a history of mixing it up with defenders. He's not afraid. He's
a trash talker.
Yeah,
he's
design
physical.
Quarterback runs, the contact. It's all this stuff that you deal with this guy. And, and this is a very dangerous team right now. This is a very dangerous team offensively because of the skill guys they have and a quarterback that just won't give up on a play.
Yeah, now let's quickly talk about the Joe Brady angle of this, like you had just mentioned there, and some of the things. I know that the line Joe Brady's given in the past, I believe, I think it was a quote he gave when he was in Carolina, was he said that he wants the defense to have to cover every blade of grass. And you can see that in a lot of ways because he does run it's kind of a classic spread offense. There's a little, there's like maybe a little air raid to it when you watch it. But man, he does like to do, let's go empty gun, or let's go, all right, we're in the shotgun. We got 4 receivers and they will spread things out. Now it's not air raid in the way Brian, in the air raid, how they get those really wide splits with the offensive linemen. It's not that they won't do that. But otherwise it looks very, very much like he wants to kind of stress teams horizontally the way the spread offense has typically been. And they take advantage of that with James Cook in the run game and with the receivers. And Josh Allen, man, is this a game? Well, let's first just touch on Brady. Your thoughts on how Brady can potentially, the way that he designs things, might stress the Cowboys?
Well, I'll tell you what, I have the utmost respect for Brady because he was at LSU and won the national championship in 2019. So when you look at what with Chase and Burrow and Jefferson and all those guys, I mean, he had everybody on edge and trying to defend him. And he's right. Every blade of grass. I mean, the way that they used the receivers, the way they ran the ball, the way they used their tight ends, it was really impressive. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a mix of tight formations. And then you're going to see open formations like you talked about, Bobby. They're going to use picks. They're going to use rubs. They're going to try and get receivers open. They're going to use crossing routes, underneath routes. They're going to throw the ball to backs. They're going to, the running back, they're going to use them as wide receivers. You're going to see wheel routes. They're going to hunt matchups is what they're going to do. They're going to hunt matchups to take advantage of defensive personnel. And, if they feel like that, okay, we're going to get this running back on a linebacker that we don't think can cover, or we're going to get one of these tight ends on a safety that we don't think can cover. So they're going to set you up with motions, they're going to get movement, and they're going to attack that area. So, yeah, I mean, there's pin and pull running game when that's really not the strength of this offensive line. They
do a little bit of it with Spencer Brown.
Yeah, they do. I mean, again, the pin and pull on the edge, there's some crack toss mixed in. The backs are physical. They use a fullback, so there's a lot of things in this offense, a lot of elements that Joe Brady can draw from and the way he attacks. So this is going to be a real challenge for Dan Quinn and this group, especially, I believe, in the running game because of what you don't have with Hankins. That is going to be an issue in this football game.
Let's talk about the trenches here in just a second. You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian. Yeah, these trenches, this offensive line that Buffalo has, it's pretty good. I was pretty impressed by them. They've obviously got Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins at the tackles. It's our old friend Connor McGovern and Osiris Torrance at guard. And then the center is Mitch Morse. And watching them, I think they're a pretty solid unit collectively. Yeah. The vulnerability maybe in pass protection times is probably Torrance.
Yes.
Who is, a guy that we talked about during the draft show process. He's heavy footed. He's got kind of concrete feet a little bit, which, by the way, I continue to marvel at Deion Dawkins, because when I watch that guy play, I have no idea how he stays in front of people.
No,
how big, and he's not fast. He doesn't move quick. But somehow he stays in front of guys. And I'm like, how do people not run by him every time? But they don't.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, Bobby. He was the one guy that, and you mentioned he coming out of Virginia Tech, I believe is where he was at school. And I remember him so well. And I remember falling in love with how nasty of a player he was. You saw a guy that was a finisher when you watched him play. I said, this guy will be fine.
Temple.
He went to school at Temple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I knew it was a maroon team.
Yeah, and Temple, he was there during the Matt Rule years, I believe, when it was right. And they were all Temple tough.
Who was I thinking? I was thinking of Darsaw is who I was thinking of too. But these big massive guys. Yeah, you're right. Temple. He went to school at Temple. But I just remember watching those games and thinking this guy might be slow footed, but he was managed to stay in front of people. That's just how it, when you watch the pass sets and stuff, it's he doesn't look quick, but here he is hammering somebody. I think with this offensive line, I would not call them the most athletic group that the Cowboys have faced, but their power and their strength, I think, is pretty impressive. I think there's some guys that can kind of lean on you. Like I say, I mentioned the pin and pull stuff, the crack toss. It's not their strength when they have to move, but they're productive when they do it. I think they want to come off the ball. I think they want to try and maul you a little bit. And as a unit, they're one of the best in the league when it comes to successful running plays. Those plays where you get 4+ yards. They're right at 47% with that. So.
Oh no! They're above their success rate running the ball is 55%.
Yeah,
as a team, which is way high.
Yeah, but you talk about like you say, it's you look at the yards that they get, and I think they were the second most. They were the second best in the league when it came to rushing for first downs. So it's a group that Dallas is probably more athletic than this group. Dallas is probably quicker. Off the ball, Dallas is probably can cause problems, but these guys they don't get exposed. Like I say, I think there were some times where they're blocking well, and the quarterback's moving around on his own when he really necessarily he doesn't have to do that. So I'm super impressed with what their offensive scheme is, and that really starts with Joe Brady and that quarterback.
Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting watching them, I expected to be more impressed, I think, by their pass catchers than I was. Because I felt like watching this team, it feels like they're having to really work to get Stephon Diggs involved right now.
Well, there's
a lot of the quick smoke routes, and they're trying to get the ball to him. It's not as easy as it's been in the past. I don't know that I saw Gabe Davis win a single rep in man coverage. When I watch in the 3 games I watched, he doesn't beat man coverage. He can sit down, do some stuff in zone, but man, he seemed to struggle in man. And Dallas is one of the teams that plays man more than anybody else in the NFL. And I think the tight ends were solid. I like the tight ends, but they're not classical tight ends. Certainly not Kincaid. Kincaid is not a very good blocker right now. I don't think. I think Knox is pretty solid, but they don't ask him to do it as much as a lot of other teams would ask him to. But I was not as impressed by the pass catching group as I was expecting to be.
Man, I'll disagree with you on that, because I think, to me, with Diggs, okay, he's a targeted receiver. I think it's the 7th most targets in the league when you look at him. And, I think he's very similar to what the Cowboys have in CeeDee Lamb. I think he's the same kind of player. I think it's kind of an explosive, nonstop guy. Routes all over the field. His production, when you watch him those games, he's a really good runner of the hitch, the corner, the goes, those kinds of things. They find ways to get him the ball in those areas. The screens are part of his game. you look at what Brady does though. Brady understands that if they don't get him the ball, he is going to lose his S. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
And
yeah,
so,
no, that's what they'll try to. Like I said,
try,
they'll throw the smoke. Like let's just get him a ball.
Let's get him the ball. And let's
But
get him
I will
going.
say, if you look at his numbers, his efficiency has plummeted since Brady took over for Ken Dorsey. It is plummeted.
Yeah. Well, but I think that overall, though, to me, I think they're better offense. I just do.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, the offense as a whole looks better.
It looks better, but and I'll say this about Gabe Davis, I don't think he gets the attention that he deserves, in my opinion. I
think he's a good receiver. I think
there's some clutchness to this guy.
Whenever I saw him go against press man, I didn't see him win. That's the only problem. And that's the thing. Most teams in the NFL are running zone these days. That you're running it 2/3 of the time minimum. Yeah. It's more likely to be 75, 80%. So that's what he's going to see most of the time. But against press man, I just didn't see him win.
Yeah. Well, to me, I just kind of felt like when the ball was off target, watching him play, that he was able to kind of come up with a play, So I think most of his routes that go down the field are good plays for him, So I like their receivers. I really, really do. We'll see how they play him. The thing I think Dallas can cover. I think they can cover Diggs. I think they can cover Gabe Davis. I don't disagree with you about that.
As long as Stephon Gilmore's healthy.
Yeah,
he didn't practice on Thursday with an illness.
Well, I like Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid.
I do too.
I do. But the problem is they're kind of nicked up right now. I mean, Knox was on their injured reserve because of he had a broken wrist, and now he's back. You start to see him make some plays. Kincaid's got a shoulder injury he's dealing with, so how much is he going to be a factor at all? But I don't, like I say, you're right. I don't see, neither one of these guys are traditional tight ends. You will see them like line up in all kinds of various spots.
I think Knox can do a little bit more than Kincaid can right now. It's just they don't really ask him to. I think Knox is. I don't think Knox is a great. I think Knox is a little better blocker than Kincaid.
Oh yeah, that neither one of them are like I say. Neither one of them are really like traditional guys.
Mm-mm.
But you look at both of them. I mean, I see body control, the balance, the hands. There's these guys are always making like contested catches, and they find ways to make plays. I just think that I remember Knox like pre-draft workouts where everybody was. I mean, he was wowing everybody with how athletic he was. So I kind of thought, here's a twitchy guy, some explosiveness. So I think Dallas. I think this game could very well, like I say, I think they can cover. I think they could cover these receivers. I wonder how they're going to play against these tight ends. I wonder how they're going to match up against these tight ends.
I'm concerned about how they match up against the tight ends. I'm concerned about, like we've already mentioned, the James Cook impact, not just in the running game, which, man, he has got such a natural feel. He's so instinctive. When you watch him, work through traffic and hit he is so
cuts
impressive.
At a high rate of speed.
I really like watching him play, and man, he is. You watch him score that first touchdown against Kansas City. He looks like a receiver running that seam route. Like, I mean, he just really
exploded. I mean, he just exploded up the field on that thing. So.
He is incredibly impressive. Yeah. And that's who I'm worried about most right now. And I think if you include tight ends and them, I think, like we said, I think they can handle Diggs. I think they can handle Gabe Davis. I think they can handle Khalil Shakir, whoever you want to throw out there. I think they can handle everybody. I don't know what their answer is for Cook, Kincaid, Knox. If Kincaid and Knox are healthy enough, I don't know what the answer is there. And more than that, Latavius Murray, you can throw him in there, who's still at 33 is still a pretty efficient runner, or Ty Johnson or whoever else. And they will not just, these running backs will not just stay in the backfield. They will line them up in the slot. They'll line them out wide. They will do a lot of different things with these guys. And I think they're really going to stress Dallas.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, to me, the problem that Dallas runs into, but I think we talked about this before, Bobby. When Dallas has problems in the running game, a lot of it's self-inflicted. It's bad fits, missed tackles, jumping around blocks, not getting off blocks. There's things that Dallas will do to self-destruct themselves in the running game. But we've seen them play against some really good backs. We've seen them hold their own, and be able to, play at a high level. But I think this crew is, a little bit different. I think it's different too because the quarterback's ability to run. I think that puts a lot more pressure on Dallas too. Because
the ability to scramble, and the ability to draw. I mean, they drew, I think, on the touchdown. That was a designed run against zero blitz.
Yeah.
That was a quarterback running against zero blitz, and he forced his way into the end zone.
Sure did.
He is really impressive. That's one of the things we talked a little bit about, with Jalen Hurts and everything about the idea of keep him in the well, put him in the well. Josh Allen, I feel like, is definitely one of these guys who's like, contain him. Don't let him extend plays.
Yeah.
Even though he can sometimes get himself in trouble there, he gets his own. He gets a healthy share of his own where he's making big plays. Yeah. So it feels like, all right, let's contain the quarterback. Let's maintain rush lanes. Like let's just play disciplined within the defensive line. I think that's going to be a big part of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This offense does scare me. It does scare me because of the physicality that they play with that quarterback at the running back spot and then with their offensive line.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the offensive line, like we talked about, we already mentioned what they do in pass coverage. I think that they're in pass blocking. I think they're in general a pretty well-rounded group. Like, it's not a thing where it's like, well, they really struggle to run block, but their pass blocking is really good. I do think that there's been times where Connor McGovern, which we had that instance here in Dallas a few times. Sure. Connor McGovern struggles sometimes in the run game. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think that it's a pretty solid unit together also in the way that they block things up for the running backs. Because like you mentioned earlier, the success rate, the efficiency of getting a successful amount of yardage relative to what's left of the sticks, they are one of the best in the NFL at it. This is not a 7-6 team like normal. This is a 7-6 team to me the same way the 2019 Cowboys were an 8-8 team, where it's like, no, that was a pretty great team. Like, not great team. That was a pretty impressive, talented team that the record did not reflect their talent. And I think that's exactly where Buffalo is right now. And we'll talk about the defense tomorrow. I think there are greater flaws on the defense, and you can identify where problems are there more than you can on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about that, because looking at their defense, there are things that they have to be worried about dealing with Dallas's offense coming into this game. There's some issues that they have that if you're one of those believers of metrics and watching the tape to kind of marry the two, there are things that you'll be able to kind of pick out of there that Buffalo defensively that Dallas can take advantage of. Well,
let's briefly, with tomorrow's episode coming up on the defense, just a quick preview of it. I'll say one thing here about this defense, Brian. First off, I mentioned last week Philadelphia likes to get their hands up and swat some balls down. Yeah. That is Buffalo to the max. AJ Epinesa, I think, is one of the
he's out
damn near but Epinesa has been damn near the league lead this year with it. He is injured. He's out. Yeah, it's the ankle. Is that what he has? I think it's an ankle.
Yeah, but let me look at my notes real quick. I wrote this.
He was in the injury report, but Epinesa's guy has it's a rib. That's what it was. Yep,
it's ribs. Yeah,
I was thinking ankle was Malik Hooker. That's what Malik Hooker was out for earlier this week.
Yeah, he's dealing with a rib injury. He
Epinesa's got his 8 pass breakups. Even without Epinesa, though, you've got guys like who's on the inside there. Jordan Phillips. He gets his hand on a lot of balls.
Yeah, Oliver Phillips. Yeah, those guys.
Oliver. Leonard Floyd will get his hand on a ball every now and
Rousseau,
then. Rousseau is. Man, I tried to throw dirt on Rousseau during the draft process. He's turned into a good player. He's really well-rounded.
It's funny, you talk to people in Buffalo, he could be so on or so off. I was talking to a guy today about him, and like this guy is telling me, he's like, listen, I'm like, well, Rousseau, look, high effort, covers ground, first few steps, can really close in a hurry, and all of kind of. And this guy goes, yeah, but he plays like well half the time. He could be like, he looks like just a great player. Then the next 2 series, you don't notice him at all. I think, to be honest with you, Bobby, and their linebackers are kind of small, and they really miss Matt Milano. And I know we'll get into all that tomorrow, but Terrell Bernard and Terrell Dotson are a couple of small guys. Now, but like I say, Bernard,
I like Bernard.
Baylor guy, super productive. like he's got like 112 tackles.
He and Jalen Petrie, man, on that defense.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But they use him in coverage. So again, we'll get into all that tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil all of it, but here I will leave you with this one nugget that we're going to spoil. You're going to be able to get to the second level running the ball, I think, if you want to, because that defensive line is not very good against the run, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're going to struggle, and then they struggle because the linebackers are small too. So that could be a big issue for them. They get kind of out physicaled sometimes when you watch them play. That people get on them, they take them one direction and run at them, and then they try and get over, and then they cut them off from plays and stuff like that. So, yeah, if Buffalo, if you're gonna get Buffalo, you got to get them on defense. That's we'll see if Micah Hyde. I mean, he's struggling now with the neck, is another thing that they're having to deal with. And I'd say tomorrow,
injuries to watch.
Check about when we start to talk about the secondary and some of the issues.
We'll get a chance to record after the game status report comes out. So we're going to cheat a little bit because then we'll know if Micah Hyde is going to play or not.
Yeah,
you are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Stars and Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever. I can't say it, Brian, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian. It is now time for our Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag. It's where we turn things over to our dear sweet listeners. First question here. Why don't we go with a Dean Julia question? It's been a little bit. It was his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Recently.
It was a birthday the other day, yeah.
You guys are birthday twins.
Yeah.
First question here from Dean Julia. Do you think Mike McCarthy comes out with a more conservative game plan and approach because of the outdoors and weather, or do you think we'll see what we've been seeing at home?
Man, at home, you are an unbeatable team. I'd love to play San Francisco at home with the way things are going right now.
You have a much better shot for sure.
Just to see. I was on the Buffalo podcast, Always Game Day in Buffalo. Isn't that what they call it? Always Game Day in Buffalo, I think is what they call their podcast.
I think so.
Game Day in Buffalo. Really nice dudes. Really super, super guys. And they were telling me that they felt like the weather was going to be good for this game. Now, weather in Buffalo can change at moment's notice. I was hearing 58 degrees. 48 degrees, possible showers. We'll see how it all plays out. Christy Scales, we do the Cowboys pre- and post-game show on 105.3 The Fan. Scoop always gives us the weather and what's going to be happening and the wind or anything like that. And I was saying this, the Buffalo guys were telling me that the Buffalo players want to play in dry conditions. They don't want to play in cold and bad. And, everything's, oh, no, this is what you live in. This is play. No, they are just like anybody else that goes in there. Us. Yeah, they want to go in there and play in good conditions. They don't want to play in bad conditions. So anyway, with that being said, if Dallas gets a draw of a great day for mid-December in Orchard Park, New York, that's prayers answered right there. So that'll tell you a lot, though, with Mike and them. I think there's things we're going to get into tomorrow about Buffalo's defense that the Cowboys can clearly take advantage of, and it might turn into not being as balanced as they need to be.
Yeah, I would say, and again, like you just said, I think we'll get into it a little bit later. My thought is you might come in with a little bit more of a conservative in terms of not necessarily pressing
depending
the ball
on the
down
weather. I think it's depending on the weather. How much wind? You got the wind at your back, or what are you dealing with here?
I also think Buffalo is going to be I think Buffalo's going to come to the game. My own thinking, Buffalo's going to come to this game and say, we're not going to let you take the top off. We'll keep stuff in front of us, and you're going to have to pick us apart down here because we're not going to let you just go over the top. Yeah. And so that's just what I would anticipate we're going to see. Next question here. Let's get a question here from Damon. If you could have one of Pollard, Steele, or Gallup playing at their pre-injury level, which would it be?
Steele.
I think I'd pick Steele too. Which we see Steele's played better at times. It's not consistent.
Absolutely. They helped him last week, but they helped him to a point where it was noticeable, but it wasn't like on every snap. And there was some one-on-one stuff where he and Hassan Reddick were mano-a-mano, and he did his job. And that's all you can ask right now of Terrence Steele. Do your job. But man, pre-injury, man, him and Martin are starting to hook it up a little bit too.
Yeah.
On the running game stuff. So, But
do you think any of that's honestly? And I don't know. And I mean, we could ask Mike McCarthy on Sean and RJ on 105 through the fan on Friday. But I also know he would say, yeah, absolutely, it helps. But I do wonder, do you think any of that is Blasco returning, since he's been such a big part of the run game install the last couple years?
I'm willing to give guys credit like that. Sure.
I wonder, because Blasco wasn't here for a lot of the season. So I just wonder. Sure. And he worked with the offensive line last year. He's working the running backs this year, and he's part of the run game install. I just had wondered that. I need to probably ask somebody that off the record, because on the record, they're always going to just go, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I am curious.
I'll do it for you. I think they would probably say sure.
I'm curious, because I do think that's, pretty interesting time there. Next question here from Craig Boyd. Brian, how many games do you think Philly can realistically lose the rest of the way? They're on the road against Seattle this week. Then they've got the Giants twice and the Cardinals. Is 2 the max there? I would not the Giants have been playing better lately. They're scrappy. Philly's bad. That Giants team that Dallas played a few weeks ago is, like I said, that was one of the worst teams I've seen in recent NFL history. They're really bad. They're starting to believe a little bit, playing a little bit better, but I still think your best shot is you really need Seattle to win this week against Philadelphia if you want a shot at the division.
Seattle's the perfect team for Philadelphia to play. You know why?
Why?
Seattle will find ways to lose games at the end.
There is that. These are the two, since week 7, these are the two worst defenses in the NFL.
Philadelphia loves playing teams that will find a way to lose at the end. Mm-hmm. Look at 10 of their wins. Look at how, I will say this. I still have respect for Philly. You know what? I'd give anything right now to have their schedule. I'd give anything to have their schedule. And I'll tell you why. Because look, they've already beaten Miami. They beat Buffalo. They've done a lot of the heavy lifting already. The Giants are a nice story right now. I mean, DeVito's playing well. He's not turning over the ball. There's a lot of positivity there. They're playing better on defense. Wink Martindale's going to blitz the heck out of you. That's how you kind of. It's a nice story. I think they're winning too many games, to be honest with you. You don't want to finish this thing 8-9 and have maybe you kind of want to, if you're not going anywhere, but they believe that they can win all these games. But playing Seattle's a perfect opponent for Philadelphia. They played teams like this all year. They look good for 3/4 of the game, and then they fall apart at the end. That's what Seattle does.
Yeah,
it plays right into Philadelphia's hands, because Philadelphia will let you stay around, and then they'll find a way to win the game. So,
Philly, even when they struggle, even when they're lacking talent, Philly has shown they don't lose on details.
They don't lose on details, and the thing about it is they either get their ass handed to them or they win the game. That's kind of how they've been, Yeah. But I think that, to me, I think Philadelphia goes to Seattle and wins. I just do. I don't trust Seattle right now. I just don't. And I know. Was it how many games in a row have they lost to? Philadelphia's lost. They haven't won like the last 6 or 7 games.
Is it that long a streak against Seattle?
Yeah. They haven't, in like 6 or 7 games in a row. They haven't beaten Seattle.
Those are two teams right now that are really struggling defensively. So I mean, if you were gonna win a game here, that would be the time to do it. Is right now when you could get a high scoring affair, because we saw Seattle can put up points. They can absolutely.
They absolutely can. But the thing about it is too, this is now where I think that you're going to see, and we saw it a little bit last week in the Dallas game. They're going to start running Jalen Hurts. He's now they're going to start running him. Now the offense. I mean, we're to the point now where you've got to, if you're Philadelphia, you got to find a way to win this division. You've got to find a way to win the division. So I can see the game plans being more Jalen Hurts running, lot less of him thinking about it. Him going and trying to win these games.
Next question here from Aaron. Now that CeeDee Lamb has been in the league for almost 4 years, give us a pro comp of who his game reminds you of from, this is a very particular one, from a player before 2004. Because the comp CeeDee got all the time coming out of Oklahoma. Do you remember who it was, Brian? Everybody was throwing it out there.
No, who was it?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh,
which Hopkins.
I think he's
bigger.
quicker. I think. Yeah.
Hopkins was bigger. CeeDee's quicker.
Quicker, yeah.
You know the guy he reminded me of when we were studying him a little bit, and this is right around, I think, pre-2004, I believe. Yeah, he came in the league in 2001. The guy he kind of reminded me of, Brian, was Chad Johnson. That's who he reminded. Just kind of the build and the type
wiry,
of it is.
Yeah.
And that's who he reminded me of. I don't know that there's a great. I think there are parts of his game that remind me of different guys, and then it comes together to be CD. I don't know that there's a really good oh yeah, that's the guy that he is.
Isaac Bruce.
That's pretty good.
That's
probably pretty good. No, I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Isaac Bruce was a guy who was, again, I think CD's probably a little quicker. How much was Isaac Bruce bigger? No, they're about the same size.
About the kind of thin kind of guy.
CD's a little taller, but thinner guys. But and Isaac Bruce would catch everything.
Catch everything. Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking. Spectacular catches, good route runner, good after catch. I'm gonna look up Isaac Bruce real quick here. And see
6 foot 188. Well, there you go, Brian. It appears Brian has left us, and that's okay because it's still you and I, people. That does it for us here today on the Love of the Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have one more episode for you this week when we will preview the Buffalo defense and how Dallas may be able to attack that. For the now departed Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.